Hello. Hi. That's why I was talking to you, because we're doing a program on TV. We're doing a program, it's called...
we just came from England, actually. We
Yeah.
started in England. Oh, you're from Belgium?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Everybody in Belgium speaks English now?
Well, more or less.
What happened?
We're a small country.
Yeah.
We got invaded.
Cultural invasion. A cultural invasion. The Arabs call that ghazu thaqafi. And when you get invaded by somebody else's culture, it begins to take over, like American culture, unfortunately. Yeah.
Which is your country?
We like diversity. The spice of life, they say. Variety. But unfortunately, some people want everybody to eat McDonald's hamburgers. How do you find this place?
We like it.
Yeah, it's you know what's interesting about Belgium is historically, the tolerance movement in Europe began in Belgium because the people there have a lot of tolerance by nature. Tolerance. Yeah, religious tolerance. You know, in Holland, Belgium, exactly.
Maybe before Belgium.
Before, but it's similar. You know, the cultures are very similar. So it's sad about now some of the problems that you have, because I know there's a lot of problems with the North Africans in Belgium.
Well, it's not that bad.
It's not that bad. Not as bad as Holland.
There's many immigrants who come from Eastern Europe who experience problematic situations at work where they live.
Yeah.
It's not only the
North
African.
Do you know very much about Islam? Oh, really? Nothing?
What do you know?
When
Yeah.
Yeah, seriously, we're curious.
Where do you start?
Where
to start?
do you know for
Muhammad, he knows Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Yeah, Allah. And Jesus.
The Ramadan.
Ramadan, yeah, Ramadan.
it's normal.
Yeah, the Muslims, you know, we see Islam as an extension of the Judaic and the Christian tradition.
And we have in Belgium this Arabic European Liga movement, you know?
Yes.
Abu Jaja.
Yeah.
He's quite famous.
Oh, he is?
It's very big.
Yeah.
Because
Negative
but
or
he, well, in both were.
Mostly
some like him,
negative.
some don't
Yeah,
like
but
him.
on the other hand, he's seen as a how you say it, radical
Extremist.
extremist.
Yeah.
He's trying
But
to
on the
start
other-
a party also in Holland now.
To take over Holland.
Yeah.
And
Well, it's
make,
not-
and
Because
make
it
it,
doesn't work in
and
Belgium.
make
I
it
don't
a
know, but
Muslim
in a way
state or
you
something.
You understand
I don't
why?
know,
I don't
maybe.
know.
But even
Even though we're not.
like him.
Oh, right. Yeah.
It's all parties that have doubts.
the immigrants to assimilate.
He wants them to stay separate.
Yes.
In a way,
Yeah. What do you
Yeah.
think about that?
It's ambiguous. I mean, I think you have to adapt a little in a way.
Yes.
Because I always try to imagine what would I do if I go to another country, if I am forced to go to another country because my status. I mean, I'm not. It's difficult to say here because
There are
I don't
many
have
reasons.
work, I don't have money.
Right.
I mean, or because of war, and I go
See,
elsewhere.
part of the problem, you know, generally humans, if you look at human beings, generally we all pretty much agree on some basic things. Like, I don't want you to aggress against me, you don't want me to aggress against you. That's a given. I want you to respect my property, you want me to respect your property. These are all givens. But then we have particulars, which are different. So for instance, for Muslims, like Christian and Jewish people that believe in certain basic moralities, like relations between men and women. In Islam, relations can only exist within a framework. And if it's outside of that framework, it's not permissible. That used to be the situation in a large segment of Europe and certainly in America, whereas that has changed radically now. So a lot of Muslims are very fearful if we allow our children to assimilate into the culture, they'll get girlfriends and boyfriends, premarital sex, AIDS, herpes, drugs.
Wow.
They really start getting
Overreact.
they really start getting frightened about losing these things that they believe are really essential. I mean, I'll give you a tragic example of this. In London recently, there was a Kurdish man who killed his daughter, literally killed her. Did you read about that? Yeah, it's tragic, and it's totally prohibited in Islamic law. You can't do that, obviously. Nobody would accept that. But that is the type of trauma that goes on, because he's coming from a Kurdish village where they have a whole understanding. And after he killed his daughter, he threw himself out of a window and tried to kill himself. So it wasn't like he was an evil man. He
had to do it in a way.
He felt, well, he saw his daughter as an extension of himself. That he was the reason for her coming into the world. And he saw her as doing something that was so unacceptable in his worldview that death was preferable to it. The dishonor was so difficult. Yes. These type of concepts were not alien in the West. I mean, we really did have very similar concepts not that long ago. Now they seem almost silly to a lot of Western people. Like, what's the big deal?
A normal communication with people from other cultures that are young like us, and I think we would like for them to have as much freedom what we see as freedom to do and stand.
What would you tell people now they're seeing in the Middle East, young people like you who are seeing, and what's the message you want to tell them now? What would you want to tell them? They're seeing you,
A couple of million Arabs are watching
this. It's difficult to imagine what they go through.
What would you want to tell them? No message for them? I know they would tell you, like, I'm sure.
You have the microphones and the cameras, so.
No, feel free to say whatever.
You don't have to say anything, but I'm curious. I would like to develop just what's your name?
I'm Caroline.
Caroline? My name's Hamza. I'm actually from California. I'm just curious, because I grew up in California, and I grew up in the 60s and 70s when, the freedom and all of these things. In fact, a lot of these ideas actually came out of that whole period and experience. But my real understanding of freedom is not so much to be able to do whatever you want, but I see it as doing actually what's the ability to truly choose. For instance, when we have impulses, there's a lot of people that are overweight in America. Is it freedom to eat all I want? I mean, is that really do we call that freedom, Or is people addicted to sexuality? They can't control themselves. They have to keep trying to seduce people.
You don't necessarily need faith to have these values, and that's sometimes maybe the thing that we perceive as different from us. I mean, I have the same values, but I'm not religious, and it's not imposed on me by any faith
anymore.
So we do it because we think it's right, and because we want to believe that way.
I accept that.
That's a very important thing that we feel as young people in the West, that religion is not the source of the values.
We don't want sex every day, but it's not because I'm religious that I will have sex or no sex. It's because of what I feel I should do.
Right.
I'm not against religion in a sense, but I don't want to.
But it's difficult
to have religion impose a way of life upon me. We're all educated, and we've been living without any harm or problem.
I don't want to have religion to play any role in public life. If you are religious, it's okay if you do it inside your house.
Or in a mosque, or it doesn't.
In political life.
But not in political life. That's
but
not in the laws.
Do you want your politicians honest, for instance?
Yeah, but we have had
but
a
not
very
because they are
extreme
religious.
tradition of Jewish, Roman Catholic politicians, and they did they made the same mistakes as everyone.
Well, they're human.
Yeah, but it has nothing to do with their faith.
No.
Well, it depends.
No,
I mean,
because in
faith is
Flanders
real.
you have a lot of guilt complexes about you should not do this, you should not do that, and that was because of religion. And now we have freed ourselves from these complexes.
Okay.
And I choose. I'm honest. I'm very peace loving. I'm tolerant, but it has to do with my human feeling. You said humanism. That's what I believe in, and not.
You believe in humanism.
Yeah, not faith.
Where do those values, do you think, where do they come from?
From thinking, with my brain.
Yeah.
And
But
from
where did that come from?
society.
No, where did the
Society.
thinking come from? I mean, where did those thoughts come from? Because some people...
I think you should be.
What's your name?
Ellen.
Ellen? Some people don't have those thoughts at all. They're like you, they don't have religion, and they can literally, like Saddam Hussein is a good example of that. He could kill tens of thousands of people and still go to sleep at night. I mean, there's people like that in the world. Not everybody has these feelings. But I mean, I'm just curious, where do you think those real feelings come from? I mean, you can say thinking, but even thought, where does thought come from? Where?
From learning about things, from learning, from reading books, from education. We have learned about different.
So our primitive people, they don't have these feelings like some Aboriginal people who can't read or write in Australia.
No, but
hold on, Aboriginal people who cannot read or write have no tradition of literacy.
Yeah, but they learn things in another ways.
Okay, so it's not just reading.
When we say
They were peaceful in nature. They have a fantastic culture, but that's changed when English came in.
Right.
But what if other people who don't have these thoughts that you have, their actions affect you and may harm you? Doesn't it need some kind of higher order in order to prevent those people?
I believe in democracy, and I believe in our
Well, let me ask
legal
you
system.
something about democracy. For instance, in England, 80% of the English people were against bombing Iraq, and yet the government bombed
Yeah, that's
Iraq.
not democratic. We were against bombing Iraq.
the next elections, I hope they will lose.
Yeah, but
the
afterwards, the best system, but it
After
doesn't work
all
in
that.
practice like it should. But it's the best solution of all worst solutions, I think.
Oh,
Democracy. So the idea of people.
The worst.
Yeah, the best
in
of
a
the
way
worst.
it
Yeah,
is.
that's it.
Do you have an alternative for democracy to avoid all that?
Well,
Definitely.
I mean, I think, my personal belief is waking people up is what I really feel the most important thing for me to be doing. Like trying to wake myself up and trying to wake others up. One, to alternative ways of looking at things, because I think that we should challenge ourselves constantly, always.
And what means do you have to wake up people?
How do you organize
To wake
it?
up. Well, part of
For
it
a
is.
whole community?
Yeah.
What is the
Politics,
best way
not
to do that?
Yeah, I don't.
Political
I'm
party, then.
very. Yeah, politics. I don't like political parties very much.
So that's not
I
the way
think
you-
I personally prefer communitarianism. I think that the best human beings are people that can monitor themselves. I would rather have people that actually have internal mechanisms that prevent them from stealing than have police that scare them into not stealing.
That's all.
But I also feel that in order to prevent the temptation of stealing, you have to have more just distribution of wealth. I think that in societies where we spend billions of dollars on weapons and we have old people begging in the streets, I think something is deeply wrong with our society.
We agree. We totally agree. But we see no practical alternative for that.
Well,
Because
see, this is where my faith enters in, and we can disagree about this, but for the sake of our argument, my faith enters in because I actually believe that there is a source behind all of this. I don't think this just came in from, it just popped into existence, or over millennia we kind of developed into these thinking. Very fascinating, very incredible. I mean, we have eyes, we can see each other. I come from California. I've never met you one time, and here we are speaking in language that we can both understand, and we're having thoughts and thinking. I mean, I find that very extraordinary, and I have a difficult time believing that was just a coincidence. And so I believe that source does communicate to us, and I believe it communicates to us in two ways. One is the way you're talking about. I believe that those thoughts that you have, even though you might not attribute them to that source, those thoughts of, I don't want to harm another person, I actually believe that you were created with those thoughts, that those are, in essence, what, in a more poetic language, we would call energetic thought. I believe that source does communicate to us, and I believe it communicates to us in two ways. One is the way you're talking about. I believe that those thoughts that you have, even though you might not attribute them to that source, those thoughts of, I don't want to harm another person, I actually believe that you were created with those thoughts, that those are, in essence, what, in a more poetic language, we would call angelic thoughts. But I also think there's demonic thoughts of people that have thoughts that tell them, take what you want. You know, who cares about that person?
And some of them even do that and,
within themselves.
And see their faith as a source for those.
No, exactly, because we're, yes, and
some people play with it.
And this is the mind can play big tricks on
very
us.
cruel things happen
In the name of religion.
religion.
Yes, and very cruel things in the name of humanity. Secularism, if you look at the 20th century, it was not a religious century. It was actually the absence of religion. It was the first century in which Western man really threw off religion, and yet it's the bloodiest century in human history. We killed 180 million people were killed. I'm saying we human beings. 180 million, most of them civilians. Saturation bombing.
Collateral damage.
Collateral damage.
Yeah.
They didn't have nice euphemisms like that then. But
maybe
so
the difference is that you believe it could have been prevented by religion, and we do not believe that.
So what about the religious wars in the Middle Ages?
Yes, and I think that those are the absence of religion. I think when war, I only believe in a right to defend. I believe that I have a right, if you attack me, I feel that I have not only a right, but an instinct that was put in me to defend myself against you. But then the challenge is, once I've overcome you, what do I do then? Do I take revenge? My religion says, vengeance belongs only to God. It's not my business to take revenge. If God wants to take revenge, that's His business. My business is actually not to take revenge. And that's where my religion comes in. So I believe a lot of what you don't like about religion, I don't like about religion. Many of the things that you're telling me, I agree with you.
They are not religion. They are misinterpretations.
I think they're misunderstandings. But the same thing can be said about any system of belief. It doesn't have to be religion that causes these things. National Socialism, if you look at what Hitler wanted to do, he wanted everybody to have food on the table. He wanted all the Germans to have cars. He had the Volkswagen made. Volkswagen, the car for the people. He was a vegetarian. He liked children. Do you know, he had a sense of humor. Yeah, German children, you see. So he wasn't being compelled by a religious, he was being compelled by a nationalistic ideology. I don't think it's wrong to want good for your people, but at the expense of other people, I think there's a problem there. But it wasn't religion that did that to him. It was actually, I would say, in essence, the absence of religion.
بالذات لو بتقولهم على هتلر انه هذا ما هو دين لكن وضر الناس فمش الدين اللي بيضر هو الانسان اللي بيضر whether باسم الدين او باسم غير الدين.
باسم غير الدين.
ألان وكارولاين الاثنين دول تحديدا والولد اللي كان لابس
مثقفين شكلهم
مثقفين وهم كمان كانوا مشدودين جدا للحوار لانه حسوا انه في حاجه هم ممكن يقربوا منها اكتر.
يا ريت كنت يعني you give them مثلا your contact or يعني they need to know more كده.
And I think that those feelings that you have, Elaine, those feelings that you have are actually religious feelings. That's how I see them. I mean,
But on the other hand, if I were a woman and I went to Islam, I would have difficulties because I would not be allowed the same rights as I have now. I mean,
that's a cultural religion.
It's much harder for me.
Yeah, that's a cultural religion. I would say that wasn't true in the Islamic religion. I think that women, what's happened to women in the Muslim world has more to do with the culture of the Muslim world than it does. I mean, I have a wife who's from California. She's a Muslim. she grew up in California. My sister became Muslim. We grew up in a very progressive, liberal, humanistic family.
It's difficult for us, I think, to see the difference
possible?
between the cultural religion, as you
And the real
name it,
religion
and the real,
from God, from
Right.
Allah.
Because
This is a big problem because
many Muslims do not
they don't
separate
distinguish.
these. No.
Absolutely. It's a big
that's
problem.
why.
And the impression that we have now is that Islam is getting more radical now
More
than
radical. Yeah.
compared to 20 years ago.
Yeah. Well, the conditions in the Muslim world are also more extreme. The poverty is more, the oppression. Also, if you look at what's happened in just our lifetimes, we watched the Chechen people bombed mercilessly by the Russians. Nobody really did anything. We watched Bosnia happen. All those women that got raped. Nobody really did anything. We watched.
But you don't want revenge upon...
I agree with you, but humans are humans.
Yeah,
and
but-
see, revenge is a very natural instinct in many people. And
Yeah,
for
because
me,
that's what frightens me, you know, because I have nothing to do with... I don't want the Chechens to be bombed, but I can't help it.
and so if
I don't
somebody
want to
comes
be-
and blows you up,
Yeah, I don't want to
thinking
be the
that
object
you're
of
the
revenge.
enemy, you don't want to be the object
No,
of revenge.
no.
And you shouldn't be, and I don't believe you should be. And what we're trying to do, I mean, and part of even what we're trying to do in this program is to help Arab youth understand that you're not the enemy.
I mean, I live in Brussels, I live between...
You're not the enemy, you know. But unfortunately, humans, you know, we have very primitive. We have 3 brains in here. We have what they call the reptilian brain in neurology, right? I mean, I have a medical background. We have a reptilian brain. They call it the R stem, and then we have a midbrain, which is shared by like dogs and cats. And then we have a neocortex. Unfortunately, that reptilian brain overrides the what they call the neocortex, the latest part of the brain, which is what humans have that other animals don't have. Once you move into that animalistic behavior, it overrides. I mean, look.
So when morality is situated in the third brain, or
Right.
yeah,
Morality is in the neocortex.
We as
Yeah, it's in the third brain. And the revenge is in that first brain. It's a reptilian instinct.
Yeah, but
an
I
animal,
always-
if you hurt an animal, it lashes. Go ahead, sorry.
No, sorry. I always try to have my rational brain overpower my instincts, my instinctive feeling. Because, I mean, I live in Brussels. I mean, I've been robbed as well. And first reaction is, I want this person to be executed. You know, first reaction. But after, but
that's honesty.
gut feeling. I mean,
that is a gut feeling.
I was-
Somebody runs you off the road, you want to smash their
I was
car.
shocked by my own thoughts. I did not say executed, but I said punished. You know?
Yeah.
10 minutes, and then after 10 minutes, you start thinking calmly, and I always try to believe that rational
Yeah.
thoughts should, in the end, overcome. You know?
Overcome.
The story about Qala Qabilt when he stole his stuff from the river.
Yeah.
You know,
We
I-
have a famous story of a Muslim. His name was Abu Yazid al-Bustami. He was in a hammam, you know, where they go to wash,
Yeah.
and all his clothes and his money was in a little box. Somebody came and stole it, and he saw the man steal his things, and he put on his clothes, and he put on the towels, and he ran after him, and the thief saw him. He got afraid. He was running faster. He finally caught him, and he said, "Don't be afraid. I just wanted to say, you can have my things. I don't want you to steal."
Muslims, you want revenge for
No,
all the
I said
injustice that-
humans. Islam is not about revenge. It's about justice. And hope
No, but you said that the situation at this moment is that extreme that you find that
is
revenge
coming from a desire
just-
for revenge. Yes, which I said is a human
that
desire
goes just
when
that
people
goes
aren't
right
thinking anymore.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
You just told a story about not taking revenge. So
Yeah.
why? It's
thoughts.
much more complicated.
No, my point is that your initial desire, some people never get beyond that desire. That was my point.
And those are the
You
ones
see,
making the revenges.
those are the problematic people that don't get beyond that initial desire. What you saw in yourself was part of your humanity, and that part can take over. That's my point.
Yeah, no,
do you
it's
think
right.
that morality comes from religion, or
I think that well, it depends on how we define religion, because I believe there is a natural religion which you have. I think that what you have, this sense of justice and this sense of right and this desire not to harm others, and also to forgive. I believe that that is actually from God, that God made you like that, and that's the highest quality in you. And I believe that the universe that we're in, the way...
Do you believe that, for example, the moral thought that you shouldn't kill another person, is that something that was given into us by God?
I think it's in us by God, and I think not only we have it, but animals have it. Very few animals kill within the species. For instance, animals that have horns will gouge another species, but when they fight amongst themselves, they don't gouge. They lock horns, like rams. They don't actually gouge. Well, why do they do that? Because it's in our nature not to actually harm our own kind.
But don't you think it's more like a rational consequence of the fact that, like, we humans, ages ago, somehow we figured out that the fact that working together as a species would get us farther than, you know, like individuals competing each other.
Right.
So that the idea of killing another person, it's not.
It's
It's maybe not about something morality.
That's a philosophy. That's called utilitarianism. Jeremy Bentham. Yeah.
Wow. You're a philosopher.
Everybody's a philosopher. Everybody's a philosopher.
يعني النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم ألا لا إيمان لمن لا محبة له ألا لا إيمان لمن لا محبة له. يعني المحبة هي أساس الدين. الناس ما يقتنعون بالبراهين والحجج العقلية. هؤلاء لو عملتم هؤلاء بمعاملة حسنة وخالق الناس بخلق حسن تعاملوا، يعني يتعجبون هؤلاء مسلمون لكن وهم كما كنا نتصور، ولو يعني دعوتهم إلى أكل أو شيء هكذا والله منهم من يسلمون. أنا ما عندي شيء.
It was very nice meeting all of you, and we wish you the best and keep an open mind. They say minds are like parachutes. If you don't open them, it's deadly. But this is really a journey that we're all taking.
With Sheikh Hamza.
I'm taking them on this journey, and it's partly to try to break down some of the barriers between the West and between the Muslim world.
To show the West is not bad.
England, France.
Yeah, just that people, we don't want people blowing up people and things like that because they don't, you know, there's a lot of young
to get
people.
to know. So you see that you Western people.
There's a verse in the Quran. There's a verse in the Quran. It says, إِنَّا خَلَقْنَاكُم مِّن ذَكَرٍ وَأُنثَىٰ وَجَعَلْنَاكُم شُعُوبًا وَقَبَائِلَ لِتَعَارَفُوا إِنَّ أَكْرَمَكُمْ عِندَ اللَّهِ أَتْقَاكُم.
ولذا قلت لهم أنه لتعارفوا لا لتباغضوا. هذا مفهوم المخالفة. إذا قال لتعارفوا معنى لا لتباغضوا، يعني الله خلقنا وجعلنا شعوب وقبائل لتعارفوا لا لنتباغض.
We have created you from pairs, from mates, female, male, and we, God, the creative force, we have made you into nations and clans that you might know one another, not that you despise one another. It's for lita'arufu. It's that you might come to know each other. And then it says, and the noblest in God's eyes are the most conscientious. You know, the people that more aware. Yeah.
Okay, it's nice. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good luck. Bye.
Good luck.